All right, we are live in studio with local MMA fighter, assistant wrestling coach at Lincoln High School, Robiel Tesfaldet. How we doing, buddy?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Lovely Saturday here in the Sioux Falls. So we're going to get into some topics, but first, man, obviously I know you. We trained together. Give the people listening just a little bit of background. Are you originally from Sioux Falls, or kind of go into some detail there?
I was born in Holland, Michigan, but I really don't remember much because we moved to Sioux Falls when I was really young. So I consider myself pretty much born and raised in Sioux Falls.
Sure.
Yeah. I started training at Next Edge, I want to say, in 2013, and ever since then, I've been pretty consistent.
Absolutely. Every time I'm here, you're here. I mean, you're the guy that seems like you never leave. So, Robiel, we're going to start out by obviously going over just some MMA stuff. So you're a professional fighter, professional mixed martial artist. Your pro record is 2-1. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. And I think we got a little bit of a clip of some of your handiwork here, Bruce, if you want to throw that up.
It's not violent.
This was my last amateur fight.
Okay. You've got this guy in all sorts of trouble here already.
This video is provided by MMA Futures.
Dynasty Combat.
No, that's actually MMA Futures owns it.
Oh. Promotions Dynasty Combat.
So this was for an amateur title, isn't that right?
Yep.
Okay.
I was defending my amateur title.
Okay.
Do in this last 25 seconds of this last
This was
round.
at the Pinnacle Bank
Right now, he
Arena
needs
in
something. He needs
Lincoln,
to dig
Nebraska.
deep. He needs to pull out something. He
That's
needs
a
to go
sweet
for broke
venue.
right now.
Yeah.
Robiel's can just be on
That holds a
his
lot of
back,
people.
Just moving around.
Yeah. It wasn't even close
Hands
to
are
being
very
packed,
low right
but
now.
you could just kind of visualize it, what it would
Absolutely.
be like if
Oh,
there was a ton of people there.
Robiel's literally.
You're kind of toying with him here now.
Yeah.
All
Kind of
right.
just running the clock out. Know the fight's over.
Oh,
Nice spinning
Both
back
guys
fist there right at the
got
end.
him.
Throws the mouth guard.
spinning back
Nobody
fist
wants none of that.
At the same time. Pretty
If you're
good.
going to the
That's awesome.
Bellator card, you might get a free mouth
right.
guard. Already molded.
Custom fit for yours truly, Robiel. All right, man. No, that's awesome. So that's just a little bit of a peek of what people kind of will get to see, next month. I guess, is it August already? No.
Almost.
Almost.
We got a few more days, I think.
A couple weeks, though. Are you getting excited?
Yeah. Yep. This far out, I kind of just keep the vibes positive, keep being excited. The nerves don't really hit till closer to it. So, yeah, just thinking about competing.
And that's on August 17th. It's
Yeah.
at the Pentagon here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So do you know who your opponent is at this time, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Lloyd McKinney.
Okay.
He trains out of Wisconsin. I don't know what the Ironworks, is that the gym? Yeah. So he trains at a gym called Ironworks in
Okay.
Wisconsin.
Sweet.
They're a good team, good coaching staff, but I feel really prepared for this one.
Absolutely, man. I obviously train with you on a weekly basis, and I get to see in here, and yeah, you're looking sharp. Everything looks like it's firing for you. You're looking really good. Talk a little bit about the strategy here. So when you have an opponent, how much of it is game planning for the opponent versus just trying to focus on your own skill? Are you somebody that there's kind of two different schools of thought?
Right.
Are you somebody that really says, okay, this is what my opponent does. I need to utilize, these techniques in order to beat him because this is not what he is good at, or these are his strengths I need to stay away from? Or do you just worry about what you're doing and what your strengths are and trying to improve on your stuff?
I know a lot of people like to not look at anything of their opponent and just focus completely on themselves. I kind of overthink things, so I like to get kind of a vibe for who I'm fighting. Like, what stance does he like to be in?
Sure.
What does he kind of like to go for? And when I can get those general points and general concepts, then I can kind of make sure I address those. And once those are addressed, then it's all focused on what I do best and what I like to do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you almost have to have a base strategy going in, just understanding some of the, like you said, concepts that you're going to get a look at,
Yeah.
so that you kind of know how to adjust accordingly.
Right. You don't want to find out he's a southpaw, that first 5 seconds or something.
Correct. So how did this you being on the Bellator card? I mean, that kind of happened really quick. Can you just talk us a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah. So Sioux Falls has, I don't know what year they legalized MMA.
Sanctioned. Would that be the word?
3 years ago. But since then, they consistently have put in like 2 big cards a year, and most of the time it's LFA. One time it was the UFC, and now we're getting Bellator.
Right.
And since I've turned pro in August of 2017, I fought on both the LFA cards. So I think as being somebody that was local, that's a pro, that has had success and can bring people in, I was one of the people that they wanted to be on this card.
Sure. I mean, obviously you've got a big fan base here, and your fans will turn out. And so, I mean, as a promoter, that's probably something that they consider. So did your folks reach out to Bellator, or was it vice versa, or how did that work?
I kind of don't really even know how it went.
You just worry about the fighting, right?
Yeah. I just got approached with the contract from my coach, Bruce Hoyer, and then I just signed it.
Sweet.
So it was nice and easy.
Nice. So Bruce kind of took care of that end of it, and you're just worried about getting yourself ready and getting in there to dominate.
Yep.
Nice. So is this a one-fight deal with the potential for more if you do well, or talk a little bit about the contract itself?
Yeah. So the contract's about agreement, so that means it's a one-fight deal.
Okay.
I kind of feel lucky to have the opportunity to fight for them, because Bellator doesn't have a flyweight division as far as having a flyweight champion.
Sure.
And like a ranking system. So I think it's just an opportunity to fight for a big promotion, to get a feel. I think I'm either the fight before the televised card, or I might be on the televised card.
Okay.
So if I'm on the televised card, it'll be TV time and
Absolutely.
open up doors for future endeavors.
Absolutely. So, and we should probably go back just a second. Some of my viewers, they're on, I do a range of topics, not just MMA. So flyweight, we're talking 125 pounders.
Yeah.
And then, when we're
Little
talking
guys.
little guy, look quick. Usually when you're dealing with the flyweight fight, and this is one of the reasons Robiel is so fun to watch, technique and quickness make a great fight. I mean, at the heavyweight, it's, one punch maybe could end it, but you don't see the technique. And as somebody that appreciates martial arts like I do, I really like seeing, the lighter weight classes go, because you guys can bang, you've got cardio,
Right.
but you're also playing mental checkers with each other and playing chess out there and trying to pick and find a shot that you want, and you can see that strategy develop a lot more, I think, at the lower weights, because it's not just, I got to land this one power punch.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. A lot of people like the heavyweights because they like seeing the knockouts.
Right.
And I've always been a heavyweight hater, low-key, because I always get jealous that people do
Is
like
that small man syndrome coming
Yes,
out a
it
little
is.
bit? Okay.
But yeah, I think when you're a littler guy, you have to deal with less weight, so you're able to kind of do more things. And when there's more stuff to do, you just develop that way. So you'll see little guys they can throw high kicks and shoot double legs and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I've seen, your style and stuff. How would you describe your style? Are you a stand-up fighter? You a freestyle fighter? How would you describe it?
So I came from a wrestling background and just a grappling heavy background. I started wrestling and judo at the same time, and that was the first martial arts that I was part of. So I think over my career, that's been what I've relied on, and I've had the most success taking people down, doing damage from on top, and then also using jiu-jitsu, passing, controlling. But over time, all my other skills have grown to kind of develop at the same level. So I feel like I can kind of take the fight wherever it goes. So I'll have a strategy, but I'll be prepared to fight in any position.
Absolutely. So you told us a little bit about, I think you said back in 2013 is when you got into MMA. Is that right?
Yeah, that's when I started wrestling and doing judo.
Okay. So how did you go from wrestling and doing judo to walking into the doors of Next Edge and getting hooked up with Bruce?
Actually, I started Next Edge in 2013. Yep. So I was wrestling at SDSU for a year in Brookings, and Kerry Bingham is a guy that lives in Brookings that trains. He drives an hour to come to Sioux Falls and train jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And me and Kerry actually started judo together in 2010. So we've kind of been training partners for 8 years, which is kind of crazy. But I would ride down with him a couple times a week to Next Edge. We put mats in the back of a coffee shop, and we would train in Brookings on the other days. And yeah, so he kind of brought me into Next Edge, and then when I moved back to Sioux Falls, I just came here full time.
Sure. I mean, Next Edge has made a name for itself, in the, not only just in Sioux Falls, but really in the region itself as being one of the premier gyms. So talk a little bit about what it means to you to have the quality of training partners that you do, and to come out of a gym that's produced several UFC athletes, Shayna Baszler, Devin Clark, Dave Machad, Ben Wen, I could keep going. Obviously, Jordan Larson, Bryce Logan, big in the LFA scene, and in the Bryce fights for LFA last time too. Yeah.
Yep.
So just talk a little bit about what it means to come out of a gym like that and have the coaches and the partners that you have here.
Man, it's pretty awesome. I feel lucky that it's like so close to where I've grown up. I didn't really have to go out and force myself to like chase my dreams. I could chase my dreams at home.
Right.
Having those guys come before me just kind of gave me more confidence in the gym, and knowing like, okay, they can produce these guys that are super talented, that are having success now, after training here for a while. And yeah, I think there's 3 black belts in South Dakota in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 4 black belts, and 2 of them train here. So it's kind of sweet that we have like a very strong, heavy grappling background as a gym. We also have Augustana Wrestling, which is the local college in town, and
yeah, there's no shortage of Augie wrestlers coming in here to grapple on a daily basis. Yep. It's like a murderer's roast.
Yeah. They're scary dudes. They're nice, but they're scary dudes.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of them, Jeff Nielsen, he wrestled there for 5 years. He's actually fighting on the Bellator card too.
Yeah, Jeff. And I was going to mention that too. Yeah, Jeff's going to be on that because there's a ton of local fighters on that card.
Yeah.
Robiel, Jeff, like you said, Jordan Larson and Bryce Logan are making the trip. They're down in training at Power in Arizona right now, but they're originally out of Next Edge. They are Sioux Falls boys. Bryce, I believe, actually Madison, but obviously from the area, they're going to be in there. Webster's Logan Storley is going to be there.
Yeah.
Is Keith going to be on the card too?
Yep, Keith.
Yeah. So Keith will be on the card as well from Next Edge. So a ton of really top talented folks are going to get to display some of their skills on this card, and I think it'll be a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Support. We're going to turn out in force and support our local fighters. So it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. The Pentagon gets loud when it gets packed and all those guys are in there.
I was talking to Pat Militich of the LFA last time they were in town, as well as their ring announcer, and he was just explaining to me, he's like, dude, we stop all over the country. No place is louder than Sioux Falls because of the venue, and you guys just bring it. And I think that goes to show just all the work that we've put into the community as far, and I don't mean we as in, me and you, but like Bruce and the team at Next Edge have done a lot for MMA here in Sioux Falls and the region. And I think that that's why we see a lot of that support when these local guys go in there to fight.
Yeah. I definitely think we're going to be a fight city capital of South Dakota, and I think it's just going to grow from here.
Yeah, we've continued to see it. It seems like every time there's a card in town, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's more and more people, and you're also seeing that evolve with mixed martial arts. More people are starting to understand what mixed martial arts is.
Right.
If you went back 10 years ago, there wasn't that many people that were into it. It's growing into this huge sport with the UFC and with Bellator on mainstream TV.
Yeah.
So I think your average fans are growing. The number of average fans are growing that might not do the sport themselves, but they're really intrigued by what it offers. So we see that along with wanting to support local fighters. So I think that's why we get such a huge turnout at these events.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Just describe a little bit fighting in your hometown, what that means to you, and the amount of the fans that come out to support you. Talk a little bit about that.
Man, it's definitely my favorite place to fight, and it's cool because a lot of my amateur fights were outside of South Dakota. So other than my parents and a few close friends, I wouldn't have a lot of people come to watch me. So you put in a lot of work and you go and compete, and when you fight in Sioux Falls and you get like that crowd pop and your friends and your family are there to watch you compete, it just adds to the experience and makes it just fun instead of, oh, I'm in a fight. It's more just I'm having fun competing, doing what I love in front of people that support me.
Absolutely, man. Describe a little bit about, so we touched a little bit about Next Edge and training out of Next Edge and the great coaches that we have here. Obviously, Bruce does a lot with the gym. He's the owner of the gym, and obviously you're probably your main coach, would you say?
Yeah.
How do you describe the relationship between yourself and Bruce, and what does it mean to have a guy like that in your corner backing you?
I really like Bruce's coaching style. I don't feel really any pressure as far as being one of his athletes. He kind of has the philosophy of learning is kind of the highest thing. So it's all right to suck at something if you're trying to work on it and get better. Which I think that's a change from college wrestling, where in college wrestling, you're expected to be good already and need to be improving on the stuff, and you don't really get a chance to slow things down and work on it. So
and also too, like, I would think fighting when you have Bruce in your corner in the middle of a match, when you have a guy that has all that knowledge and he's been on big stages in cornering huge matches for people before, so he's been there when the stakes have been really high,
right,
and all the eyes have been on people. And it seems like some of these coaches are like, do more, go punch him hard, fight harder. But it seems like he approaches it from a technical aspect. Like, hey, here's what this guy's doing. Here's what I want you to do. Make this adjustment, and here's how we can win.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like, Bruce is just super calm in there. So it gives you a kind of a calming effect. And my other corner is Lucas, and he's kind of the coach on the striking side, and he's kind of the guy that hypes me up. Sure. So I got one side that calms me down. He's just feeding me information purely, and then I got the other side that is getting me amped up, getting me excited, and ready to rock.
And you definitely need both. I mean, you don't want to just completely come out there super calm and almost flat-footed,
right,
with no energy whatsoever. So you gotta have to have a balance of both. So no, that makes a ton of sense. All right, MMA, obviously mixed martial arts. What is your favorite discipline to train in MMA? Is it boxing? Is it Muay Thai, wrestling, jits?
That's a tough one to answer. I definitely go through phases. So there'll be times where I'm just like super just into jiu-jitsu, and I'm watching Craig Jones leg lock and DVDs, and I just want to come in and roll around and grab people's feet. And then there's other days where I'm watching Lomachenko, and I was like, all right, I want to work on this kind of stuff. And I think doing this year round and wanting to do this for a long time and get as good as I can, it kind of has to be in phases like that.
Sure.
And
so you don't get burnt out on one thing
exactly,
or another. Sure.
Yep. So, yeah, that one's tough. I would say, overall, I would say jiu-jitsu maybe, because I think when it's all said and done and I'm done with my career, jiu-jitsu would be the thing that I continue to do till I'm an old man.
Well, and it offers so much, for people that see mixed martial arts, but especially jiu-jitsu, and they just think, oh, there's two guys fighting. They don't understand the strategy behind it. I mean, when you're rolling on the mat, you have to instantaneously make a decision whether to go one way or the other, and that decision has consequences, whether they're good or bad. And you're going to immediately find out whether or not you get put in a dangerous position, whether you made the right decision. So, somebody like me who just does it casually, for a workout, I really enjoy the strategy part of it. And it's not just, I think John McCain, back in the day called it human cockfighting. It's not that. Rogan did a really good job of describing mixed martial arts as, I think he said, high-level problem solving with dire consequences.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what's so fun about it. Would you agree? Right. I mean, it kind of gives you a rush because okay, I have to have my skills at a certain level or I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah. And
vice versa. If I outsmart this guy, I'm going to win. It's not just a brute force. I'm going to go in there and put my head down and swing. It's I have to out-strategize this person in order to be victorious.
Right. I think in any high-level sport that the mental state you got to be in is very similar to fighting. Like you have to be kind of in that focused flow state. And I think in fighting, it's the hardest sport to kind of get into that state because of the consequences, because you could end up getting hurt or take any sort of damage compared to other sports. But I think having those consequences and still being able to get into that flow focused state makes it super fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, when you have a high-level guy like yourself and some of these other pros that are on the card, when you watch, like you said, get into that flow, you can tell that they're just in a rhythm, and you can tell you must have to train at this nonstop to be able to do something like that. It almost seems like when the cage door shuts, for the professional fighters, it's like automatic. It's just like, okay, I've been here before, and how much do you really think in the cage versus just react and use your natural reaction?
I think that's been something that I've been developing over amateur fights, where when I first got in there, I didn't really think. I just kind of shut off and
ran at your opponent.
Ran at my opponent, yep. And over time, I've really learned to kind of you react, but in the reaction, be thinking. And I can come into the corner and have a conversation with Bruce and, be like, well, I tried this and this wasn't working. And then he can give me his feedback. Whereas something early on in my amateur career, I kind of was just, deer in the headlights, breathing heavy. And yeah.
Absolutely. For those of that have never done it before, there's a big like adrenaline dump, or just the anxiety fatigues you in a way that most people wouldn't really understand. Does that ever go away for you now that you have all these fights? You're 2-1 as a pro, but you have an extensive amateur record. Does that feeling ever go away, or that kind of I guess anxiety exhaustion is what I would call it?
No, the anxiety is the same every time. I think the only difference is I expect it. And, when it starts coming up, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what happens every time. I got to go to the bathroom 10 times in an hour, and I got to, I got the butterflies in my stomach. But then You know, you learn to turn those emotions into excitement, into, you know, just getting excited to compete. It's just an opportunity and to have fun and learn more about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, and like you said, and learn more. I mean, every fight you probably take away from a fight, whether it was a quick win or a really tough loss for you, you probably take away a extensive amount of knowledge from that fight, and you're that much better for the next fight. Is that true?
Yeah. Yep. You don't want to make those mistakes, and you want to learn from other people's mistakes, but you know, when you make those mistakes in a fight and they cost you, it really is like, all right, well, I'm working on this for sure now, and I'm not going to let this happen again.
And I think you've proven that, right? Because you had a loss when, earlier this year or just last year, late last
December,
year, right?
Yeah.
And then you were able to come back from that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you at LFA in Sioux Falls, right?
Nope. This was CFFC. This was in Atlantic City, actually.
Yeah, your loss, and then you came right back,
Yep.
right? And that was in April.
Yep.
Yeah, April at LFA at the Pentagon, and you got a very decisive win there.
Yep.
So clearly, you know, you'd made some adjustments, and you went back to the drawing board and focused on your skills, and were able to come out with a W.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about kind of what went into that and what your mindset was going on your first pro loss to having to come back now and then get that W in April.
Yeah. Dealing with the first pro loss is kind of, you know, it's heartbreaking. Obviously, it's not an easy thing, but I think I used it as motivation to really fix everything that I could. And that's when I started working with a sports psychologist, which is Brad Jerka is his name, and which is just something I had never done. I just kind of expected that if you train hard and you prepare your best, you know, you'll mentally be okay. But you got to mentally train too. You know, it's just like lifting weights to get stronger, or, you know, working on submissions in jiu-jitsu. And I think, you know, that was a huge benefit, as well as working on the technical aspects of the fight that I learned.
Sure. Well, I mean, that makes sense. You know, I think in any sport, there's people that have suffered, you know, damaging losses, and not having that confidence could really hinder you as a professional athlete. I mean, if you're an undefeated fighter, you're going into every fight thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna work this person." But
Right.
having to battle back from that loss and get over that hump, how satisfying was that victory back in April then for you?
Oh, it's the best feeling. Yeah. And you gain, like, you know, I think your confidence is higher than it was, or my confidence was higher than it was going into before my first pro loss, because I was able to get over a setback and a hump or a hurdle.
Sure. No, I mean, that makes sense. And you know, I think obviously your last fight was amazing. I'm super excited for this fight. But MMA is not all you're about, right? I know you dedicate some of your free time in the fall and in the winter to wrestling and coaching wrestling. I believe you're coaching the middle schoolers over at Lincoln High School. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, Lincoln High School is where I wrestled at in high school. So I started my sophomore year there. Same head coach, Mark Ernster.
Who was also my assistant when I wrestled at Washington. Shout out Mark Ernster.
There we go. Yeah, he approached me with the offer to coach middle school, and I hopped on it, and, you know, it was an awesome experience.
How long have you been doing it?
Last year was my first year.
Okay. You know, are you how do I want to say this? What is the most rewarding thing, I guess, for you? Obviously, you're teaching kids a skill, but it's also got to be pretty rewarding for you as well, right?
Yeah. I think being a fighter, you're super selfish. You know, you're really just thinking about bettering yourself so you can,
right,
you know, have a career in this. And having something where I could go and the focus wasn't on me. It was just focusing on developing a passion for wrestling in these kids. And, you know, there's not the result doesn't really matter when they're in middle school. It's just about having fun. So seeing, all types of kids gain a little more confidence throughout the year. There's, you have your kids that they go out, they wrestle, they get pinned, and then like they have a sigh of relief that it's
like,
all over.
It's over.
Yeah.
The anxiety.
Yep. And then you have the kids that, they wrestle and then they lose and they come off crying and kind of defeated. And, all the ranges in between. And, it's just kind of fun working with that age group.
So you hit on something I kind of want to dive into there. So you have some kids that are glad it's over, some kids that come off crying. So how do you then interact with them afterwards? Because you got to build them back up. Because some of the times it's a round robin tournament and they got to go wrestle again, or there's going to be a tournament next week. So how do you try to alleviate some of that anxiety in the one situation, and then in the other, try to handle those emotions to get that person back working on and focusing on the things that they need to improve on?
Yeah. With somebody that is relieved that they lost, I think just being there and competing and putting themselves out there is kind of a win for them.
Sure.
Especially at that age, because I think I started wrestling really late, and I really loved wrestling when I started. So I made huge improvements because I had a passion for the sport and I wanted to do good. And so I kind of just think of it in that term. So if somebody feels really defeated, I'll try to tell them to have, a short-term memory, focus on something they did good, and then maybe focus on one little detail that might help them improve in the next match, So I kind of approach it like my coaches do at Next Edge, where I don't really want to put pressure on the kid. I just want them to have fun.
Sure. So coaching kids, why is wrestling the best sport to be involved with and get your kid involved with? There's t-ball, volleyball, basketball, and kids can be involved in a variety of different programs. And I truly believe wrestling is probably the best sport to get, especially a young man, into.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I think a compact sport is one of the best sports, and I think wrestling, because there's no damage that they have to take in wrestling, and it's a one-on-one competition, and like any combat sport, you just learn a lot about yourself. You learn kind of where your weaknesses are, whether that's technically or whether that's mentally, and you just have all these opportunities to kind of overcome that.
And I think too, it's it's a team sport in that there is a team, but it's just you going out there and putting your toe on the line.
Right.
And I think for a young man, I got started pretty late into it too. I was in 8th grade when I started, and at first I was that kid that I was like, oh God, I'm glad it's over, and then I turned into the kid that was throwing his headgear and pissed off that I lost. But
Yeah.
through that, the structure of wrestling, you wrestle so much in a season, and you have to wrestle immediately, sometimes, 40, half an hour later, if you're in a tournament, right after you just got your butt whooped. So I think that builds up, confidence in people one way or the other, that I fell, I got back up. I fell, I got back up. And I think, not to get too psychological, but life is like that, right?
Yeah.
Life is not easy. You always at times get kicked or pushed down, and you have to get back up and you have to respond. So I think when you're dealing with kids of that age, it's super important, that we have guys like you that get involved with the youth to teach them, hey, get back up. It's okay. Stuff happens. Just go back out there, give it your best shot. You might get beat again. I can't guarantee you're not going to get beat again,
You'll
but
probably get beat again.
Exactly. But you really lose when you refuse to go back out.
Yeah. Yep. That's what's awesome about wrestling that is different in fighting. In wrestling, you'll get 40-something matches a year. So, yeah, you get that short-term memory. You're always just looking forward, and you get all these chances to prove yourself and improve. Whereas in fighting, you get 3 months to train for this one specific date.
For a 15-minute match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so you don't get that opportunity to overcome from as many obstacles, I guess. And so I kind of just lost my train of thought.
No worries. It happens. It happened to me about 5 minutes ago. So any interest in coaching long term? I mean, once you're done with fighting, that seems like it'd be an easy transition for you to get into. You've got all this combat sports knowledge and obviously an extensive wrestling background. Is that something that interests you in the future?
Yeah. I think right now I'm in kind of the funnest part of my life. I get to just do what I love every day and compete and challenge myself. And I think when this is all done, like there'll kind of be a void. And I would love to fill that void with coaching and kind of putting that competitive edge into, the youth instead of myself.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. So we are going to go to a segment I call Rapid Fire. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So you have not seen these questions.
No.
We are going to just go into it, and basically I'm going to read off a question and answer it as fast as you can.
All right.
All right. Favorite MMA fighter of all time?
Carl Parisian.
Carl Parisian, the judo master.
Yeah.
That's a throwback. All right. You threw me off. I lost my train of thought now. Favorite boxer of all time? Floyd.
Prince Nassim. It's tied right there.
Oh, that's a good answer. What's the best part about being a professional fighter?
Doing what I love every day and having something to look forward to always.
Absolutely. If you could fight any UFC fighter regardless of weight, who would it be and why? I shouldn't say UFC fighter. I mean like mainstream, well-known, either Bellator, UFC.
I would say GSP.
GSP? Why?
Just because he's the GOAT.
You think he's the GOAT?
Yeah.
Why is GSP the GOAT? Better than John Jones?
It's tough. John Jones is still, he's got some stuff to prove, I would say.
Like passing a drug test?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. GSP's definitely on Rushmore. Easily best welterweight ever.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a freak. Okay. What is the one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
I low-key play League of Legends sometimes.
League of Legends.
It's like a nerdy computer game.
And when you say low-key, how often do you do this?
Fight camp a lot. It's
God.
It's kind of my fight camp thing.
Kind of gets you out of your own head a little bit and helps you decompress.
Yeah.
Whatever works, man. Describe yourself in one word.
Cool.
I would agree. Describe Bruce in one word.
Crazy.
Not technical or strategic. Crazy.
If I added a few more words, it'd be like crazy old scientist.
Crazy old scientist. 3 more years of jiu-jitsu and he'll be a professor technically, I believe. Is that right?
What's
Bruce?
with the old all the time? I knew it was bad when I was considered old because when Shiloh called me old, he said old and broken. Like he signed he signed to me old and broken. Like I had to learn in sign language that I was old and broken. Like that hurt. And like at least I was.
It probably said in even more so in sign language than it did having heard it.
Yeah,
he went through the effort to teach you it means.
No, I knew it. I'm well enough now where I know when he said old and broken, and I was just like, oh, ouch. And then I called him a meanie, and because I haven't really got much into the foul language in the world of sign language. So, yeah, tear.
Sorry, Bruce, I had to put that one in there. All right, there's a awesome fight card on tonight, free fight card on Fox. We're just going to go through the top 3 fights. Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. Who wins?
Eddie Alvarez.
How?
Second round TKO.
I'm going Poirier by submission.
Ooh. What round?
3rd.
Okay.
Aldo Stevenson.
Man, that's an awesome fight. My heart says Aldo. I'm going to go with Aldo with the decision.
I've got Stevenson knockout 2nd round.
Oh, man. I don't want to see that.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Tisha Torres.
JJ. I think she wins a decision. Kind of bloodies up her face.
I've got JJ winning a decision as well.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
all right, man. So that was the rapid fire. That gets people get to know you a little bit better now. So, yeah.
By the way, folks, tune in to the early prelims and watch one Nina Ansroff, former Next Edge Academy team member, and now, UFC fighter and girlfriend to the champ, Amanda Nunes.
Do you know who she's fighting?
Yep, Random Marcos.
Oh, okay.
My bad, Nina. I'm sorry. I should have known better. But yeah, great fights on tonight. Great fight card coming up. Bellator in Sioux Falls, August 17th.
Yeah.
Robiel will be fighting, as well as, like we said, Jeff, Jordan, Bryce, Logan, Keith. A lot of local MMA fighters. Get out and support those folks. You can buy tickets either at Next Edge, or I think Bruce is putting up a link that you can go and buy tickets as well.
Justin Reiner has a question.
Ooh, Dr. Reiner coming in hot with a question.
Robiel, does Keezer have a chance at taking you down on your feet?
Yeah. Keezer, he's got a jab that is very scary. So
Thank you for finding something nice to say about me.
I could see him dropping me with the jab on my butt.
Also, the link is up there as well. squareup.com/store/Next Edge Academy of Martial Arts.
So you can get your Bellator tickets there. You can also stop in and come see us at Next Edge. Bruce has got a bunch of tickets here. Robiel will have some T-shirts on that link as well. You can get a T-shirt. We'll do pre-orders for Robiel's T-shirts,
Yep.
and then
only a
we'll get
couple
those out.
days. So
A couple days left. They are pretty sweet T-shirts. I'm going to get myself one. Get a T-shirt, get a ticket, go out and support these guys. This is a huge opportunity for Sioux Falls and local MMA fighters. So that's all the time we got. Thanks, everybody.
awesome. Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for doing it.